ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday morning session. Today we are starting chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita. This chapter is called Purushottam Yoga. This is the smallest chapter with 20 verses only. But this is the most intense and profound chapter of Bhagavad Gita. If you ask any person who knows Bhagavad Gita well, he would tell you that this is the most intense chapter to understand. And this contains deep knowledge or crux of what this world is all about. Now, let's start with verse number 1 and then we will slowly move forward. Sri Bhagwan Uvacha. Sri Krishna Bhagwan बोले, ऊपर की ओर मूल वाले और नीचे की ओर शाखा वाले जिस संसार रूप पीपल के वृक्ष को अविनाशी कहते हैं तथा वेद जिसके पत्ते कहे गए हैं, उस संसार रूप वृक्ष को जो पुरुष मूल सहित तत्व से जानता है वह वेद के तात्पर्य को जानने वाला है. ऊपर की तरफ मूल वाले और नीचे की तरफ शाखा वाले. Now we don't know any tree which has roots upwards and branches downwards. Now this is the description of this world, because Lord Krishna has defined many things in the previous chapters. He had talked about the cause of dukh. He has talked about the properties of Atma, Avinashi. He has talked about theory of karma. He has talked about yoga. He has talked about his own, what you call form, how the whole world exists. He has talked about reflection of his energy in different forms in the world. But he has not talked about what this world is. This is the chapter which explains in the beginning what this world is. Sansar kya hai? Now the first word here is sansar. What is sansar? Sansar roop people ke vraksh. What is this sansar? Sansar means basically something which is perpetually changing, which is not constant, and perpetually changing in a cycle. It's rotating perpetually in a cycle. That is called sansar. Now, this sansar has been explained in variety of ways by other people. We call it Bhavsagar also. Bhavsagar is very well talked about word that you have to cross this Bhavsagar. Bhavsagar means the infinite ocean, or the ocean on which you are, swimming across. You are facing all kinds of waves. Winds are coming. They are actually hitting you here and there, pulling you here and there, making all kinds of, wound in your body and moving forward. So you have to cross this Bhavsagar. That is one word which has been often used. Here Lord Krishna is using a very unique phrase कि ये मूल वाला वृक्ष जिसकी मूल तो ऊपर है और शाखाएं नीचे हैं. The roots are upwards and the branches are downwards. Now, what does it mean? There are various interpretations given of this particular verse, variety of interpretations. Let us take two, three interpretations. The first interpretation is that everything originates from the Almighty. The Almighty is the root from where this world comes into existence. This has been explained in the previous two chapters, particularly chapter 13, in which we talked about Kshetra and Kshetragya. And the combined effect of the two gives birth to this universe. So, in any case, the root of this sansar, root of this world, actually, I would use the word sansar because the world does not reflect what sansar reflects. So, the root of this sansar is in the supreme power, in the universal consciousness, from where everything originates. And then slowly, the decay happens, decay takes place. And that is why it keeps coming down and down. That is what the sakhae coming down and the root upwards. For example, let's take an example of a river. Now, Ganges river originates in Gangotri. When it originates in Gangotri, it is in the most pure form. Slowly, when it goes downstream, lot of dirty water comes into it, lot of chemicals come into it, lot of industrial waste come into it, and slowly it becomes dirty and dirtier and dirtier. And by the time it reaches the ocean at Ganga Sagar, it becomes very dirty. So the purity of the river starts at Gangotri, and then slowly it becomes dirty and dirtier, and then goes down and becomes very dirty by the time it reaches the ocean. Similarly, if we look at our own birth, in childhood, when we are very young born, we are very innocent, and then as the age passes, we grow older and older, we become more and more clever. We deceive people, we deceive ourselves, and we resort to all kinds of tricks. We develop what you call cunning behavior over a period of time. We lose that innocence. So our nirmalta, in the Sanskrit word, that nirmal means without any impurities, that gets diluted over time, and by the time we reach the ripe old age, we become fairly diluted. So when we get our origin from Paramatma, we are in the purest form, that is close to the root, that is upwards. And then slowly, when you come downwards, the branches becomes more and more polluted. And although the word is basically, what they have used is adhay sakham, urdhmoolam adhay sakham. Now, urdhmoolam is purity closer to the supreme. Adhay sakham means gradually becoming impure. This theory is also reflected in the theory of yugas. That in the beginning, when the yuga starts, you have Satyug, where most of the people are pure, honest. Then slowly, the honesty declines, the truthfulness declines, and then we get Treta Yuga, where 3/4 people are honest and truthful, 1/4 become dishonest. Then we go to Dwapar, where it becomes the ratio is 50-50. 50% people become dishonest, 50 people 50% people remain honest and truthful. And then in the Kali Yuga, three-fourths people become dishonest, one-fourth remain honest. So the decline happens in the theory of yoga also. So this is one explanation of Urdhmulam Adhasakham, that when the mool starts from the supreme, it is purer, and then slowly, when it comes down, it becomes impure and more impure. This is also reflected in our, uh, cultural values. We respect our parents more because they are the source of our birth. Udgam, that is where our Udgam happens. We respect the parents more because that is where we start our journey from. And then slowly it goes downwards. So any society which is actually religious will respect the parents. But in Western world today, parents are not so well respected because the society has become highly, materialistic. If you are productive, if you are contributing to the income, then you are respected. Once you are not contributing to the income, you are, set aside and put in, old age homes. Your value declines. That is partially happening in India also now. But the fact is that the source is pure and more important than the flow subsequently. So this is Urdhmulam Athasakam. This is the first explanation of this tree, of the sansar tree. This is second explanation of this, description. That is that there's no tree which is having roots up and branches down, but they believe that it is the reflection of the tree in a water body, which shows you that the roots are upwards and the branches are downwards. When you see a tree in a lake nearby, you get an impression that the branches are downwards and the root is upwards. So some people believe that this whole sansar in which we live is not a reality but merely a mirror image of the Supreme, and therefore it appears to us that the roots are upwards and the branches are downwards. So that is another explanation. They also say that when you try to attain anything in this reflection, this sansar is merely a reflection. In that reflection, they are all illusions because, for example, you want to reach that branch of the tree which is visible in the water body, you cannot really reach it because there's no branch there. It's only an illusion created because of the reflection. You may be looking at the moon in the water body, but when you want to touch that moon, the moon is not there. It is only a reflection. Like I tell you a story of my own life. I was in Canada a few months ago. So my grandson and we knew each other, and we were like, I offer him an apple and he takes it. Now we talk on the WhatsApp or virtual mode, and I offer him a apple from here. He wants to grab it, but he can't grab it because it's only a reflection. So the people believe that this reflection is an illusion in which we are stuck. This world in which we are stuck, we treat it as a real world and we try to achieve a lot of things. but it is not a real world, and whatever we achieve are not of any great use to us. So that is another explanation. But this is only the first part of this verse. Then this further down it verse says, जिस संसार रूप पीपल के वृक्ष को अविनाशी कहते हैं तथा वेद जिसके पत्ते कहे गए हैं, उस संसार रूप वृक्ष को जो मूल सहित तत्व से जानता है वह वेद के तात्पर्य को जानने वाला है. Now there are a lot of things in it. There are many things which we need to understand here. Firstly, the name of the tree here is actually not Pipal ka Vraks, but this has been interpreted as Pipal ka Vraks. This name has come earlier also, exactly the same way. It's pronounced in Sanskrit Aswatatham. Aswatatham is the word which has been used. Now, Aswatatham has two meanings. One meaning is the peepal tree. The other meaning is constantly changing. It's never stable. That is the other meaning. It's running like Aswa. Aswa is horse. It's all the time constantly running like horse. So this word has two meanings, people ka tree, but it is constantly undergoing change, it's constantly running, and we are chasing that mirage. That is the another meaning here. That in this world, when we are, following this tree, we are chasing a mirage which is constantly changing and we feel that it is stable. So that is another important, word in this verse. Then it says, वे पत्ते जो हैं, the leaves of the tree is Ved, and the branches are basically the world in which we live. The branches all around. Now, the branches are going upwards, downwards, they are moving here and there. First, let us understand what is leaves are called Ved. Why? Because from this world, don't understand it as a tree, but this is the tree of Sansar. So this tree doesn't exist in physical form, but this is an explanation, symbolic explanation of Sansar. So in this Sansar, when things are constantly changing, and you are having experience one after another in the form of those branches on which you are expanding your desires, your world, then at the end of the branch is the leaf. So when you experience this world, you acquire knowledge, and that knowledge is reflected in that leaf. And that knowledge is Ved. Now, that knowledge you experience because of your experiences in the world. And once you get frustrated in this elusive world, you get the real experience of knowledge, and that knowledge can help you to tide over this world and to reach the origin of the tree, the mool, the place where it comes from, that is the supreme force, supreme power. So that is the meaning here. Now, what are these branches? The branches which keep, spreading all around. If we go in a jungle and if we see it, a janjal, we call it kind of labyrinth of all kinds of branches. They are woven into each other and you don't know where is moving what. So that is what we do in the world. Let's take one example to explain this this labyrinth of branches on which we move in the world. Now, for example, I or somebody wants to learn cricket. Young guy, 10, 12 years of age. He was fascinated by cricketers and he wants to learn cricket. So he buys a bat, ball, prepares some other people, and he starts, playing. Then it expands further. Then he goes to a coach. The coach teaches him, how to play cricket. Then he learns a little bit of cricket in a professional way. Then he starts, knowing about the game of cricket. So he reads about the history. He reads about various tournaments, variety of, forms of cricket. Then he looks at various statistics, which player has done what, who has done what. So he get lost into statistics. Then he wants to get selected in the team. So he is interested to know how the selection happens. So he gets into that, what you call domain in which the selection happens. Then he learns many things. The game is important, but also the politics, also the contacts. He starts developing contacts here and there so that he is selected. He learns the politics of selection. Then he gets into the team. He plays his game. Then he gets into a world of advertisements because he become famous. So advertisers wants to get him. I want my brand to be played on your T-shirt. And you do this, you do that, and then he earns a lot of money. Then he wants to protect that money. He knows an investor who can help him to invest, how to protect the money, what all to buy. So you see the whole people tree keeps expanding and expanding and expanding from a small desire to play cricket. What what I have told you is only a small portion of it. It can keep expanding and expanding and expanding. So the whole sansar we weave around that. You can take any domain of life. That is how the sansar weaves around us. And we create a sansar. So these are the branches which are, moving, they are what you call prospering in every direction, in variety of ways. So this is how we get involved into this world. So we start our journey from the root of the Paramatma, or from the domain of the Paramatma, or from the house of the Paramatma. And then we come down to Brahma. The main branch of that tree is called Brahma because Brahma was the first person who was created. And then thousands and thousands of branches in which all the species of life come, particularly the human beings. We are all moving on those branches and we are creating our own branches because of these multiple desires leading from one to another to another. So this is the kind of sansar Lord Krishna is talking about. This is the roop, this is the form of this sansar in which we are living. And we are weaving this sansar. He has only given us the root, the branches we are creating while living in this sansar through our multiple desires. This will come into the next verse. But our multiple desires lead to those proliferation of branches, growth of branches in every possible direction. And then after running into those branches or running through those branches, we ultimately turn into that leaf, not getting full satisfaction, still suffering. From that suffering, we get some experience and knowledge, which is like a leaf of that tree. And that knowledge is the knowledge of Vedas. Veda doesn't necessarily mean the four Vedas only. Vedas means basically the knowledge. Whatever is the true knowledge is called Vedas. So we know that Vedas. So Lord Krishna is saying here, let's read this once again. It's a very fascinating verse. ऊपर मूल वाले और नीचे शाखा वाले जिस संसार रूप पीपल के वृक्ष को अविनाशी कहते हैं. Now there is another word अविनाशी which we have to understand. तथा वेद जिसके पत्ते कहे गए हैं, उसी संसार रूप वृक्ष को जो पुरुष मूल सहित तत्व से जानता है, वह वेद के तात्पर्य को जानने वाला है. Now Avinashi. Avinashi again means that this world is constantly has been there since times, eternal. It has not disappeared, it is not appeared. But of course, the cycle of yugas happen. That like the night happens and the day arises, similarly, the night of Brahma happens when the life comes to a standstill. It goes back into dormant state and then again it comes into active state. That happens. But otherwise, this whole sansar is constantly active, and it is avinashi means it is perpetually in existence. It has not ceased to be in existence. So that is another important, explanation here. And then जो पुरुष मूल सहित तत्व से जानता है, means it is only the human being who can understand this, because all other species of life, they are called bhogyoni, because there you can only pass the life as it is prescribed. You have no decision making power to change, and you don't get the fruits of your karma because you are not really doing karma there. You are just bhog. You are doing only, what you call a prescribed norm you are following there. But in this life, in the human being, you are doing karma, and therefore you are creating results, outcomes happen. So in this world, if you understand this world, that it originates from the Supreme, the first major branch is branch of Brahma, and then all this Srishti, all these humans come into play. They are spread over in millions of branches all over, and we keep expanding and growing these branches through, our own desires, as I explained in the form of that cricket person. And then we build a sort of labyrinth all around us, and we remain completely entrapped into that world. And if we can understand this world properly, its origin, its growth, its existence, all that if we can understand, then we understand Ved, then we understand knowledge. So this is the meaning of this verse. Now, this verse tells us what you call the most in-depth analysis of this sansar, how it operates. This will be explained further in the next verse. Now, the next verse is, उस संसार वृक्ष की तीनों गुणों रूप वाली बड़ी हुई एवं विषय भोग रूप कोंपलों वाली देव, मनुष्य और त्रियक यादि आदि योनों रूपी वाली शाखाएं नीचे और ऊपर सर्वत्र फैली हुई हैं, तथा मनुष्य लोक में कर्मों के अनुसार बांधने वाली वासना रूपी जड़ें नीचे और ऊपर व्याप्त हैं. Now this is the further expansion or further explanation of this Sansar Rupi Vraks. The first important word to understand is Gun Pravadha. Gun Pravadha Vishay Pravala. Gun Pravadha means Gun is basically the three gunas, Sat, Raj and Tam. Now, these branches expand because of the impact of these three gunas. They give Vradhi. Gun Pravadha means they give a growth to these branches. Now these branches expand depending on the individual activities. Let us take another example. Let's take an example of an industrialist or a person who wants to do business. Somebody is interested to, set up a industry, for example, to produce detergent or soap. Now he doesn't have money, but he has the idea. He goes around, he wants to explore how can he get money. So he looks into the government schemes, he goes to the banks, he takes advice of a chartered accountant, he prepares a project, he presents that project to the government and to the bank and tells them, give me 70-80% loan. He gets that loan, he puts his own money a little bit into the project, he buys the machinery that is required, then he needs to recruit people who can operate that. So he goes around in the labor market, he identifies people who can work for him, he gets the right kind of people to run the factory. Then the factory needs material input, so he goes into the areas where the inputs are available, he buys all the raw material, that is transported, transport logistics are arranged, he brings them to the factory, then the manufacturing process starts, then the quality control needs to be taken care of because the process can have some defects. The quality control is put into place. When the produce is there, then he has to market it. So he, recruits people who can market. Now marketing people have to explore. They need to do market surveys. Where is the potential? What kind of advertisements? What kind of incentives? How to go to a retail shop so that he readies to, keep my product in the shop, and then how to make recoveries from these people, how the money will flow back into the company, when the income happens, how we expand the project. So this keep on going and going and going. And once you have one factory, you would like to have another factory, then you want to go into another related field, what we call vertical expansion or horizontal expansion. And then you keep doing things and you become a big industrialist. Then you need to keep your safety into account, because once you're a lot of money, people wants to take money from you or take you hostage or take your children hostage and extract money from you. So a variety of issues come into play. So we create a world. So this is what you call gun pravadha. These gunas, here it is the rajogun which is creating this world. Rajogun means you are expanding, you are creating new activities, new things. So the gun pravadha is expanding these branches. This is what is happening. Then Visay Pravala, that is another thing. Visay Pravala is basically you want to experience this world through your sense organs. So you get into that experience. You want to, hear good music through your ears. You want to see beautiful things with your eyes. You want to taste, very tasty food with your tongue. You want to have good, soft touch with your skin. And you want to experience sexual pleasure through your sexual organs. So all these things add to this, sansar chakra, to this world which is reflected in this tree. So this is what Lord Krishna is saying, gun pravadda visay pravala. Then there's another word which has been used here in this verse is karmanubandhin. That as a result of all these activities, you get involved into karma. And then you bind yourself with those comes. Those comes will have, outcome, and then you will have to again be ready to take those outcomes and experience the outcome of the outcome. So this is कर्मों के अनुसार बांधने वाले. So these words explain, these Sanskrit words explain how we expand this tree of sansar, how we, experience this tree of sansar through our sense organs, and how we bind ourselves, how we become hostage, or how we get into the bondage into this world because of all these activities. So this is a very profound explanation of this sansar. He has taken the example of a tree which the roots are up and the branches are down. That I explained can have two very different, explanations. One is that when it starts like the river starts in the mountain, absolutely pure, and that is this world starts from the supreme, and it's absolutely pure, and slowly impurities come into play, and the branches go downwards, like the river goes downwards into the ocean. Or the other explanation is that this tree is an imaginary tree, but what Lord Krishna is talking about, the reflection of that tree in the water, where you get the roots upwards and the branches downwards, and the whole world is an illusion, where you are trying to search for the fruits, and you are trying to search for the pleasures, but those are not there because it's only a reflection of the real world in the water. So this is how he has explained this verse, these two verses, the whole world, how the sansar works, how we operate in this world, and how we suffer and we come back into this world. This is what has been explained in these first two verses of chapter 15. And then uh, here again there is a word which has been used, manushya loke. The last word of the verse number 2 is manushya loke. Now this word has been specifically used because this kind of thing, this kind of gun pravadha and visay pravala and karmanubandhini is possible only in manushya yoni, only possible in the human form. In other forms, all that is not possible. So this is why he has used this particular word here, that in this manushya yoni, in this human form, we create these, sansar rupi vraksh with our own efforts, with the help of the three gunas we have, with the help of our desires to experience, various, you know, forms of the world. Like eyes want to see a good thing and ears want to listen beautiful music. The same way, these your sense organs propel you to experience, and the gunas propel you to expand, and then you create all these karmas around you, and then you are bonded. You become absolutely like, imprisoned in this world, and therefore because of the results or outcome of the karmas you have to come back here. So this is the meaning of the first two verses. Now we'll take one more verse today. इस संसार रूपी वृक्ष का स्वरूप जैसा कहा गया है वैसा यहाँ विचार काल में नहीं पाया जाता, क्योंकि न तो इसका आदि है और न इसका कोई अंत है, तथा न इसकी अच्छी प्रकार से स्थिति ही है। इसलिए इस अहंता, ममता और वासना रूपी अति दृढ़ मूल वाले संसार रूप पीपल के वृक्ष को दृढ़ वैराग्य रूप शस्त्र के द्वारा काटकर आगे बढ़ो। Now, what he has said here in the previous two verses, he is saying that this world, this sansar of which he talked about in the two words, is not actually found by us, because we don't even imagine, because till today, for example, maybe some people experienced and thought about it, but most people did not thought that this is a tree of this sansar. How we expand this tree, how we expand branches, how the Ved is the represent the leaf of the tree, how the tree originates from the supreme force. All this is not normally known to the people, because nahi paya jata means they don't think about it, and therefore they don't experience this in the real world, all this, because they remain completely engaged in their own activities and in their sensual desires, and therefore they do not notice all that. इसलिए the normal human being does not find this existing in the world. तो न इसका आदि है, it has no beginning, no end, because you don't know when it originated. Like if you look at our own birth, we born from our parents were born from their parents were born from their parents, and their parents were born. You go back, I don't know, millions and billions and trillions of times back in time, and the cycle will continue. There's no end of that cycle, and therefore there's no adi. You can't find out that when my family tree starts. You cannot find that beginning of that tree. Like somebody prepared a family tree. Now they put a root of that tree, but you don't know where the roots begin from, because you just imagine that, okay, or yes, 5 generations back, the names, and therefore you start from there. But there were many generations before that. So you don't know when the tree began and when it will end, because it is infinite in the future. You will have children, and your children will have children, and their children will have children, and their children will have their children. Even if they don't have, it doesn't matter. Somebody else will have the branches of this sansar tree will continue to prosper, continue to grow. So this is what he's saying, that it has no beginning, no end, and you don't know where we are, in which stage we are, whether we are in infancy or whether we are in adulthood or whether we are in ripe old age, or we don't know where we are, because iski koi sthiti bhi nahi hai. It's beyond our conception to establish where it is, to know where it is. And that is why he's saying that the best thing is that we adopt vairagya, that we, do not get involved into this world. We segregate or we separate ourselves from this sansar rupi vraksh, and we realize where we came from. We just look at our root, where the root begins. We leave this tree aside, do not become party to growth of the branches and proliferation of the branches. We just leave that tree aside and identify where my root began and live with that root. And that is the only way that you can actually tackle this sansar. So this is the way to tackle this sansar. How to tackle? This sansar will continue. Like, look at the politics today. I was just thinking, Sometimes you feel that the politics, the decay has happened, extreme decay. The people abuse each other. They are resorting to all kinds of techniques to win the election. But this is not necessarily new. This has been happening ever since. If you read the history of the time of independence, after soon after independence, even then it happened. Some people bring out the history, and they tell during Pandit Nehru's time this also happened. During Indira Gandhi's time this also happened. It's happening now also. And I can also recall certain things, how things happened, before. So these things are new, not new. These things keep happening constantly. Maybe there is, slight decay as the decay happens, because as the river flows downward, the decay happens. But the decay is slowly happening, and therefore we do not realize the decay profoundly. This decay is visible only after generations. If you come after 200 or 500 years back into this world, then you will realize the decay. But in our lifetime, we are not able to realize that decay profoundly. We do recognize little bit, but not profoundly. So this is what is happening in this world. That it has no beginning, at least we cannot understand the beginning. We cannot understand the end of it. We don't know where we are. And therefore, the best way is that we keep ourselves aside from that tree. We keep separate ourselves, that I am not part of the tree. I am not contributing to the tree. I am not under the influence of my sense organs. I am not under the influence of my gunas, and I leave this world, leave this sansar rupi tree on one side, and I recognize the root from where I come from. So this is what Lord Krishna is saying, how you overcome this sansar rupi tree, how you can cross the Bhavsagar, how you can, swim over the Bhavsagar. This is the way to do it. So I'll stop here, and we will, of course, next time we'll continue. If you have any queries, I'll try to answer. But this chapter is, as I mentioned, is very, very profound. It will take time for us to digest and understand. Therefore, we'll have to do little manan on some of these thoughts expressed in these three verses. Thank you.